Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cyclone InCYders. I'm Matt Van Winkle, joined once again always by Dean Burhaugal, Alex Halstead of the Iowa State Daily, and Cody Peterson there on the far end. Guys, a lot to talk about here in our first segment. Obviously, Iowa State men's basketball, what we're going to talk about here in the first segment. Going to talk with Dylan Montz and Stephen Koningsfeld from the Iowa State Daily in the second segment. Got a lot to talk about for the Iowa State women as well. But, guys, let's jump into some Iowa State men's talk. Obviously, disappointing loss last Saturday down in Norman against Oklahoma. We weren't really sure what to expect from Iowa State after that very tough loss to Kansas. Seemed to be a bit of a hangover in that game. Fred Hoiberg even addressed that on Monday, said the team probably wasn't ready for that one, which was understandable after that really, really tough loss on Big Monday against the Jayhawks. Obviously, a big game coming up tomorrow against Oklahoma State. Senior night, obviously going to be a big anticipated game. Another chance for a ranked win for this team. We'll talk about what that means for this team. And obviously, we know now that Iowa State will play on Thursday in the Big 12 tournament next week. We'll get into that a little bit later. And also, our Iowa State's NCAA tournament's hopes still alive. But, guys, let's get your quick thoughts from Iowa State's game against Oklahoma. I mean, as I said, a little bit of a hangover, but, I mean, I expected a little bit more out of this team, especially how they played against Kansas. Really shot the ball well, but really wasn't the story on Saturday, Dean.
Yeah, you know, I expected them really to bounce back. They're 3-1 now, 3-2 in games after losses. Yep. And I mean, Fred said it after the game. That was the only game that he thought this year that they really got their butts kicked, as you know, he said, and they really did. I mean, Oklahoma made 34 of 34 free throws. I mean, that was tying the record. But aside from that, I mean, Iowa State wasn't moving the ball. Oklahoma was. They out-rebounded them. They really just came out and flat out kicked their butt.
86-69 was the final, Alex. I mean, they had almost a whole week off to prepare for that game, and Iowa State really handled Oklahoma here in Ames, and Oklahoma really had the upper hand, it seemed like, in Norman.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily surprised that they lost. I mean, Oklahoma's a good team, a team that I think can still move up into the 3 seed in the Big 12. It's more surprising. Well right now, It's more surprising the way they lost. The fact that they never really seemed in the game. They lost by 17. Most of the game they were down between the 15 and 20 range. It seemed like, especially after the early second half run by Oklahoma. But like Hoiberg said, he was kind of surprised that they had no energy considering the magnitude of that game. They win that game, maybe they start to push themselves in the tournament. They lose, and now they're still searching for it.
Absolutely, and Oklahoma really just unbelievable free throw shooting that game. They were 34 of 34 in that game. Just, I mean, when they're getting to the line that much and they're being that aggressive, and Iowa State, on the other hand, is missing shots, not being aggressive, they just look dead on the road. It's going to be tough to stop a team like that, Cody.
Yeah. We really noticed in the first and second half, Boo Boo Paulo was probably the best player for Iowa State on offense.
You tweeted that.
That is really not a good sign for Iowa State's offense when he's probably, their 9th leading scorer or somewhere around there.
Yeah, obviously struggled to shoot the ball in that game, with the exception of Tyrus McGee. I mean, that guy continues to go out and just play lights-out basketball. It's his senior season. I mean, there's talks about him maybe getting a start tomorrow against Oklahoma State, but I mean, we talked about this last week, just the impact he's having, leading the Big 12 and three-point field goal percentages, three-pointers made. This guy can just bring you right back in a game. I mean, they pulled back in with a little bit. He hit a few threes, brought it back within single digits, I believe, in that second half. But, man, he's a difference maker, isn't he, guys?
Yeah. I mean, there's no question he's probably the best sixth man in the country.
And they need more than just him.
Yeah. I mean,
that was the case in point from that game, what I took away from that. They need more than Tyrus McGee to win.
Well, I think the big thing is that you look at is their ball movement. I mean, you know, Hoiberg said after the game again, he thought they were playing selfish, and I think that really shows when you only had 8 assists on 22 made field goals. I think that's such a giant contrast from the way they play at Hilton, and when they're playing well, it's because they're moving the ball well. You look at Oklahoma, I mean, they had 17 assists on 23 made field goals. Totally different story. You know, Iowa State
was their senior night too.
Yeah, I mean, it was their senior night. Don't get me wrong. Oklahoma is a really good team. I mean, they're very solid. They're top heavy, have a great front line, but it's just, I think the thing is they really thrive when they're moving the ball, when they get out in transition, when you get guys that are attacking the hoop when they're getting to the free throw line, and it just, I mean, it didn't happen.
I think that's where Fred talked about where they struggle was getting back on defense, transition defense. Really been a struggle with this team, and I think it's a bit of a surprise to me based on the fact that how fast this team is on offense. I mean, you expect a team that's so quick getting up and down the court to be able to do the same thing on defense, but that seems like it's really been lacking, and it's been resulting into a lot of points for the opponent.
Yeah, especially early in that first half. I mean, I don't know how many shots Oklahoma had. The top of the three-point line, just inside. 17-foot shots that were wide open. And I know, You know, I think a lot of those were grooms. He went 6 of 8 in the first half against Iowa State, I think, shooting. When you give that many opportunities, wide open opportunities, that's going to be a start to your defense being hurt. Really, the only guys that really are known for defense on the team are Melvin Edgem and Chris Babb. And outside of that, they just – how many times did Lucius come out at the guy with his hand up?
Sure.
But it's too late when they had the wide open shot to begin.
I mean, they wanted to let Sam Groom shoot the ball. They let him do it at Hilton, but he goes 7 of 13. Right. He has probably a career night on his senior night, but I mean that was just case in point. I mean, like you said, they need to play better defensively, and they just haven't. I mean, you think about Corey Lucius. He's been beat up by Elijah Johnson, by Marcus Smart, and now by Sam Grooms. He's got another chance tomorrow night against Marcus Smart, probably a top 5 draft pick.
One thing about I think as the season back to McGee, as the season's gone along, we've really found out how lucky the Cyclones are to have him, because without him, how many games? I mean, he's made 6 3-pointers in the last couple games. Some of those 3-pointers are just insane shots that somehow find the bottom of the net.
You think about Kansas, you know, like keeping them in that game, especially Kansas State on the road when Kansas State went on an early run in the second half, and he kept them in the game there, and they ended up losing by 9. But yeah, I think that's a perfect point. I mean, when they need that spark in offense to keep their offense moving, to keep the game close when other teams go on runs, he's usually the guy that makes the answer. Right. When other teams go on a run.
For a team that's averaging over 80 points a game, I think they're 4th in the nation right now.
Yes.
Got to give credit to Oklahoma's defense, though. Really held Iowa State. I mean, Iowa State still shot the ball pretty well in that second half, but overall, complete games. I mean, we've talked about this all year long, too. If they don't play a complete game, I mean, it's going to be hard for them to win. Because if they, especially against teams like in Oklahoma State, like in Oklahoma, like at Kansas, you got to play from start to finish because you know the other team's going to be just as potent on offense as well.
And Oklahoma put Iowa State down right from the beginning. I mean, I think they started 1 of 8 from the field. 3-pointers in the first half, they were 4 of 16, which that's what they live by, and they couldn't find it going. So they fell in the hole quick, and you know, on the road against a team like Oklahoma, you can't fall in the hole that quickly.
And if Oklahoma is shooting 34 free throws and making 34 free throws, they have time to get back, get ready for Iowa State's offense, and they weren't able to get out in transition.
I mean, you take away half those free throws, and I mean, you got a pretty good ball game.
Yeah.
You got to give them credit for your.
You got to give him credit for getting to the line.
When you're outscored by 20 at the free throw line, that's a big dent.
I think Cody made a really good point because they only had 2 points in fast break, and they're guys that get between 15 and 20 a game. You know, they live for those transition threes, they live for those transition dunks, easy layups where Corey Lucius makes a good pass or Will Clyburn does, and it just didn't happen. So I think that's a very good point that you make.
I think we've hashed enough about this old game. We've got a big game coming up tomorrow on Wednesday. Iowa State hosting number 13. Oklahoma State. This to me, if they win this game, they're in the NCAA tournament. To me, I think if they win this game, it's a ranked win. They get to 10 wins in conference. I think that 5 teams from the Big 12 will get into the tournament. This to me, I mean, if they lose this game and beat West Virginia, I still think they need a Big 12 tournament win. So this game, guys, to me, as we said in previous episodes, every game from here on out is going to be the biggest game for Iowa State.
Well, I think the bottom line is that, I mean, you're right. If they win this game, they're in. I think it's for them to not be in the tournament, they're going to have to lose out. They're going to have to lose to Oklahoma State. They're going to have to lose to West Virginia, and they're going to have to get beat in Kansas City in the Big 12 tournament. Yeah. So I think it's going to be very hard for them to honestly not make the NCAA tournament with the offensive firepower they have, with the RPI rank they have, the BPI ranking they have. I mean, aside from them not winning road games, they can't beat a lot of Big 12 teams on the road. I think they're too strong offensively, too good-looking of a team to really not pass the eye test, not making the NCAA tournament.
I think if they beat Oklahoma State, it'd be hard for them not to. One, because they beat that 10-win mark in the conference.
I think if they win, there's no question there.
Yeah, and then the committee, is still going to remember that Kansas game. It's on Big Monday. That's going to help the fact that it was on national television so close, and obviously the controversial call. Yeah. But I think for sure, personally, I would be more surprised. I feel like they're more likely to win tomorrow and lose Saturday than not other way around. I don't know why.
Well, I love the way this team plays at home, and I have every reason to believe that they're going to win this game. But, I mean, like we said, we've seen this against good teams, against Iowa State. They play well at home, but they got to finish out games. And this is a big night for them. Obviously, these seniors, they want to finish it off the right way at home. Let's actually cut to that video here. We've got some press conference footage of Fred Hoiberg and some of the Iowa State seniors talking about reflecting on their careers in a Cyclone uniform.
It's a great day. I remember my senior day. It was you know, such a fun experience being out in the court with my family, and you know, I think most of the guys will have some family members at this game, and you know, again, it's a game you don't forget, and you know, I think these guys deserve a great send-off for you know, for helping us get this program on the right track. You know, and they jump-started our program, and they deserve a great send-off tomorrow, and I know Cyclone Nation will be here and be behind them. And give us a great home court like they have been all year. It's as good a year of support that I've ever seen. I think you see that in our numbers with season ticket sales and you know, the number of people you see in the seats on any given night. And I believe we'll have that again on Wednesday.
Yeah, man, it's definitely going to be a lot of emotion going into this last game. You know, we have 6 seniors, you know, like myself and Booker, who's been here, you know, kind of from, you know, this whole new era. You know, I want to say of, you know, Hoiberg's first year. Even though we didn't play that first year, we've still been a part of, you know, his whole era. And, you know, I think it's kind of been a new face for Cyclone basketball the past couple of years. And, you know, to be a part of that is something very special. And then, you know, to bring in Tyrus and Corey and Will and, you know, Macbeth, who's been here since then as well. It's going to be a lot of emotion. But, you know, we definitely want to go out on a high note and, you know, win this last game.
Pretty good. It's going to be pretty emotional. Like I said, it's my last year of college basketball. College has been a fun time for me, a good experience, and something I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. So my last game at Hilton tomorrow is going to be something to remember.
It's a lot of emotions going into that. Spending your last 2 years at a university that gave you a shot, playing your last college collegiate basketball. And it's a big opportunity for us. I mean, it's going to be a lot of emotions, like I said, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy to almost be done with college, so it'll be fun.
I don't think any team had really brought in, you know, pretty much a whole new team of transfers like Coach Hoiberg had. So, you know, I think it was a new thing, and I think we just kind of took it and ran with it. And, you know, whether it was people thought it was kind of controversial, you know, kind of, you know, saying, you know, he was giving guys a second chance that didn't deserve second chances, you know, whether guys that got in trouble or, you know, didn't work out their other programs. But, you know, like we were talking about earlier, he just took that chance on us. And, you know, so we had that respect for him that, you know, he gave us that opportunity.
I think Macbeth talks the most out of like anybody on the team, including myself. I mean, you always hear Macbeth, and he doesn't play. He doesn't really play in practice and nothing like that. But, I mean, just the way he talks, he brings leadership no matter what position he's in.
All 5 of our seniors, or, you know, including Macbeth, are all transfers. So, you know, I think we just kind of took that opportunity, knowing that this was, you know, basically our last shot to make something happen, you know, whether it worked out or not at our previous school. This is our last opportunity, and, you know, I think so far we've made the most of it. You know, we work hard. You know, we love playing for this school. We love playing for Coach Hoiberg and the rest of the coaching staff. And, you know, we just took that chance similar to how he took it on us. And, you know, I think it's worked out for the most part.
And there's some of the seniors talking just a little bit about, you know, what it's been like for them. I mean, obviously a lot of different journeys for these guys. I mean, a few of them had to sit out. A few of them played last year, got to be in you know, in that big tournament run. I mean, a lot of different stories. And we were talking about how all these guys are transfers. And I think that's so unique to have a team like that. I mean, you don't have – it's not often you have a graduating class of seniors that are all transfers, guys. And how special – I mean, how important – they've really changed what Iowa State basketball has become. I mean, we had, you know, that whole talk about the best practice team in the country a couple of years ago, and now that has turned into making an NCAA tournament, getting 10 conference wins last year, and a chance to do it again this season. I mean, just really cool stuff from what this group of seniors has been able to do.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, man, that practice team. I can't even imagine that. But,
crazy, right?
But really, I mean, it was a similar case last year. You think about it. They had, you know, you have Scott and you have Chris, Scott Christopherson and Chris Allen.
Yep.
But this is a team. I mean, this is a group. I mean, this is 5 guys that have been playing with all 5 of them. But I think it's just very unique because those guys have become a part of Iowa State. You know, they really have become a part of the legacy now because they are the team. Those 5 guys really. I mean, if you think about it, us along with Georges and Melvin, but. I mean, I agree. I think it's very unique. I think it's very cool. And I think it's very different this year for me because, you know, you get a chance to meet these guys and actually talk to them and really get to know them as opposed to watching last year.
I think aside from tomorrow being a big night because it's their last all those seniors' last game at Hilton. It's also a big night because it's kind of the end of the first stretch of the Hoiberg era. I mean, the transfers will be gone. Next year is going to be a completely different look team with a lot of young people instead of all these transfers. So it's kind of the end of the first phase. Well, it'll be interesting to see if he continues the transfer thing again down the line. But for now, moving down to the younger people.
And how many people doubted Hoiberg with that strategy of bringing all these transfers in? And now we're kind of seeing that, you know, other programs are copying, you know, that blueprint to maybe jumpstart a program, and it's really worked out as well as possible.
Well, and Fred was asked that on Monday if he's going to continue bringing in transfer guys, and obviously it's paid off for him so far, and you know he's going to continue to do that. Obviously they got a couple guys from Indian Hills coming in next year, a couple junior college transfers, those guys coming in, and I mean Matt Thomas. I mean you've got guys, you know, true freshmen that are coming in. Guys are going to make a bigger impact, in my opinion, throughout 4 years, like we've seen with Melvin Edgem, like we've seen with a George Niang. I mean, you bring in guys, you bring in these transfers, and I think that they're really the stepping stone for what's to come for this team, because you bring in guys like a Royce White, Chris Babb, Corey Lucius, guys that have been there, guys that are really bringing this whole program to another level, and you're bringing in guys, you're getting potential #1 recruit shooting guard in the country coming in for a visit. I mean, that doesn't happen it hasn't happened in the past for Iowa State, so it's only looking up to me.
Those transfers really are, like you said, a stepping stone. They're the people that they help Iowa State get to the NCAA tournament and make recruits look at Iowa State, because, you know, without the Royce and people like that to put them in that NCAA tournament last year, maybe recruits aren't as interested.
Rashad Vaughn doesn't step foot in Hill.
Right, exactly.
Those people put them back on, especially with the style of basketball. They've changed the style of Cyclone basketball quite a bit. The high scoring, the three-pointers, all that.
I think they're going to be where they're at right now until they really land a home run recruit like a Rashad Vaughn. I mean, you bring in Matt Thomas, who's a top 100 guy, probably a top 50 guy this year. Monty Morris recently fell out of the top 100. But you think about it, you're going to bring in those guys. You're going to bring in transfers like Dustin Hogan, Richard Amarty from Indian Hills. But you think about it, next year's really the chance, like you said, I think that's a really good point, to take that next step and to really figure out if they can come together. Because you think about it, he brings in all new guys nearly every year. But the difference is that this past year and the year before that, you had transfers that have played before. This coming year, you know, you have JUCO guys, not from Penn State. You don't have transfers from Penn State. You have guys from Indian Hills, and then you have freshmen.
I hate to jump forward so much, but you look at next year's starting lineup: George, Melvin, Boo Boo, potentially all three guys that have been in the program for 2 or 3 more years. You know, those are guys that have been there from the start, not transfers. So I mean, it's hard to look that far in the future, but. I mean, you look at what these seniors are going to do this year. I mean, you got Will Clyburn, Tyrus McGee, Corey Lucius, Chris Babb, Anthony Booker, and Austin McBeth. I mean, Austin McBeth, we got to give him a shout out at least, right?
McBeth time, baby.
There you go. But I mean, these guys are going to have a big impact on tomorrow's game, and let's talk about that a little bit, guys, because we talked about it a little bit before. But is this a game that if you win, you're in the NCAA tournament? Is this the kind of game where it's the dividing line between you being in or you being out? I mean, obviously, if they win West Virginia and they win a Big 12 tournament game, they're probably in. But if they win this, are they in?
I think if they win Oklahoma State, they're in, because then their signature wins are Kansas State, who was number 11 when they beat them, Oklahoma, who's got a high RPI, Oklahoma State. If they lose and beat West Virginia, their signature wins aren't as numerous. So I think if they just beat West Virginia, they probably have to win in the Big 12 tournament. But if they win that, it's a number 13 team. It's just such a big win. It'd be hard for me to see them not getting in with that, because it's 10 plus what they've done.
Here's my question, though. If you're a Cyclone fan and they lose this game tomorrow on Wednesday and they lose Saturday, how worried are you? I mean,
terrified.
You're in all-out panic mode.
They need to get at least a win, one win, and they're in?
That's what I'm saying. I think the only way this team doesn't make the tournament is if they lose out. But I think that's a very real possibility. Think about
lose out regular season?
Lose out
or
entirely.
Okay.
I think they'd have to lose to Oklahoma State. They'd have to lose to West Virginia, which they very well could. I mean, you think about it. West Virginia is a team they don't want to play. I mean, that's a really physical team coached by Bob Huggins. You got to go all the way to the East Coast, play that team. And then if they lose that one, then you got to come back to Kansas City and try to beat an Oklahoma team that just whooped you in Norman.
I think right now the Big 12 is at most a 5-seed team to the NCAA tournament. Baylor's 8 and... They're 8-9, and they play Kansas.
No way the Big 12 gets 6 in.
No,
not a chance.
At most, it's at 5. If Iowa State loses out,
we could start talking really crazy if we think about Baylor beats Kansas, Iowa State beats Oklahoma State, and then they both play well in the Big 12 tournament. You'd be looking at 6, but that's ridiculous.
Guys, but if Baylor beats Kansas this week, They're at 18 wins and 9-9 in the conference.
I don't know if that's
still,
enough.
to me, that doesn't get you in.
They're not going to beat Kansas.
So to me, no. That's a lock by Cody, by the way.
Sharpie, I guess.
But I mean, we know right now, though, guys, that Iowa State will more than likely be a 4 or 5 seed. They will be a 4 or a 5 seed in the Big 12 tournament, and they're more than likely going to end up playing against Oklahoma. And I mean, like we said, if they lose out in conference, if I'm Iowa State, I am worried.
Yeah.
Because
they're worried right now
because of the way they played on the road against Oklahoma. We know that this team has struggled on the road. We know that this team has struggled on neutral courts. And they're going to be doing that when they go down to Kansas City. So, to me, you got to win this game tomorrow.
Yeah.
You got to win this game. It's crucial.
It's about time.
Yeah. The one thing about if they play Oklahoma in the Big 12 tournament, maybe it'll come back in their favor that they didn't beat them the second time. Because it's hard to beat a team 3 times, so
it's fair.
Maybe that third time.
I think if anything, if we've learned anything, we don't know anything about the Big 12.
The one thing I liked at the news conference this week is that Hoiberg kind of acknowledged that the NCAA tournament is on their mind. I mean, most of the season you've heard him say, we're just
one
thinking
game
about
at
the
a
next
time.
game, but it's on their mind. I mean, that is the ultimate goal, and they know they know they have to do this week.
Exactly.
If they don't play well this week, they know they're not going to get in.
It's in their minds. You know they're thinking about it. They've got to get this win on Wednesday.
I think it's just time for them to really just stop beating around the bush. I mean, how many times have we come and we sat here and done the show and said, if they win this game, then they're in. But if they lose, then they can still get in this way.
We were talking about this during our last video. Is that Fred Hoiberg even mentioned that this team could potentially be 13-3 in conference.
Yeah.
Right now they're 9-7.
The Vikings could have won the Super Bowl too, but that didn't happen.
I mean, you look at what could have been for Iowa State this year, but you can't do that.
No.
The past is the past, and you can't change that.
Maybe if they weren't fighting for their tournament life, could you say?
The crazy thing about the could have been is they don't even need to be 13-3. If they would have just won that one Kansas game, one of those 4 would have been enough. So
Nothing is easy if you're an Iowa State
But I
fan.
think it's not like we're the only ones that really see that. I mean, the NCAA tournament selection committee has to see Iowa State beats Kansas if they don't bank in a 3, beats Kansas if they call a charge, beat Oklahoma State on the road if Marcus Smart isn't amazing.
Yeah,
I think if they win, tomorrow, it would be kind of an afterthought. That's how sure I think they would be in.
I think it's just solidifying, really. So.
Well, I mean, and you look at Iowa State. The reason they're a 4 or 5 seed is because they have the tiebreaker over Baylor. Obviously, went 2-0 against them this year, but they're in that 4-5 slot. So that means that if potentially they get to the semifinals, that they potentially could play Kansas again.
Yeah.
And they might play Oklahoma, as we said.
If they beat Oklahoma,
how many great matchups is this setting up for, though?
That's what I'm saying.
That's crazy.
Kansas City could be fun. I hope I'm there.
If they were to beat Oklahoma, it's almost certainly Kansas because. Unless TCU upsets West Virginia or West Virginia beats...
Or TCU beats Kansas again.
Yeah.
Sprint Center.
Let's backtrack a little bit, guys, and talk about this game that's going to be happening on Wednesday. ISU went down to Stillwater and had a lead late in that game. They had a chance to
74-70, I think they led.
78-76 is what it was.
As they lost.
Final, yeah.
Marcus, 78-76, right. And then Marcus Smart hits that shot at the buzzer. Just kind of a crazy game down there. What are you guys expecting from Iowa State on Wednesday? Senior night, as we mentioned. What are you guys expecting from this team? How did they show up on Wednesday?
Well, the one thing that happened down there, obviously, was they couldn't close it out. They got off to a quick start, I think, against Oklahoma State. I think they hit several threes right away. But they were up 74-70, and Melvin Edgum gets the ball taken from him. If he doesn't get that ball taken from him, he gets fouled, and they probably win. I think a lot of threes, but is expected on Wednesday. Probably break the single-season three-point record.
Iowa State led by 4 with just about 2 minutes left in that game. And that was another one of those cases where Iowa State just could not finish off a game.
Yeah.
And on the road especially. I mean, they've had that problem all season long. But now they're at home. Do you see them getting out to a 10-point lead late in the second?
They would play with a lot of desperation. I mean, this could be their season. It's senior night. You've got to think the crowd's going to be pumped up. And they're usually pretty effective when they're feeding off the energy in Hilton.
And you look at it, I mean, Oklahoma State, do they have 1 or 2 games left? I'm looking at they're 12-4 in conference.
They have this game and then they have Kansas State.
They've got 2 left.
Two tough ones.
They're playing for a shot at that number 2 spot right now. Kansas State is ranked number 9 right now, 13-3 in conference. They've got a lot to play for too.
I think they're also playing to stay in the top 3. if I'm right, I think if they lose to Iowa State and Kansas State this week, and Oklahoma State beats West Virginia and TCU, then they could swap places, and Oklahoma State all of a sudden plays Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament. So they're playing to stay in the top 3 seeds, and they're at 12, so they're in the tournament, but now they're playing for seeding in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want. But I think, you have to expect an unbelievable amount of energy. I mean, they already have it in Hilton. I mean, if you guys watched that game at Oklahoma, I mean, that arena was half full. And it's surprising to me because Oklahoma hasn't been good. Maybe that's why they're good now. Yeah. But, I mean, you have to expect a lot of threes. They're going to be chucking it. They're going to have to because you think about it, again, like almost all these games, aside from their three-pointers and taking care of the ball, it's going to come down to defense. Yeah. I mean, I think Oklahoma State's one of the toughest guards in the entire country. You think about their three guards before their forwards. That's you look at Marcus Smart, top 5 pick. You look at LeBron Nash, who, if he goes to the draft, he's probably the first half of the first-round pick. And that's not even getting to their lead scorer, Markel Brown. So I think that's going to be really tough. You've got to ask Corey Lucius to step up his defense again, guard a much bigger and stronger guard than him.
Well, yeah, you talked about the threes. They made 13 threes against Oklahoma State last time out of 24, and they still managed to lose. And that came down to late game, not closing it out. Right. The other thing, you mentioned Nash and Smart. They combined for 39 last time against Iowa State out of the 78.
Well, that's the
thing.
Those
two got to be contained.
They've got so many guys that can score the ball, and that's why I think they're so similar and they match up so well. I think Fred's even said that this team matches up well against Iowa State. It's a good matchup for them because both teams are so similar in the sense they both got guys. They got so much depth in the starting lineup and off the bench. I think Forte, isn't he coming off the bench for them?
Well, Keaton Page.
And Forte scored 17 last time.
Yeah, and he's cannon threes. So I think it's, like I said, one of the toughest guards in the country. When you think about it, I don't know where you put Edgem. You probably have Bab on Nash. I thought Bab would be on Smart, but they put Lucius on Smart and he gets beat up. Yeah. But, Edgem is going to have to stay
that. That'll be a matchup to watch.
That'll be something to watch. I'm actually really intrigued to see how they want to guard Oklahoma State. Whether they go to more 2-3. When they played against Oklahoma, they flashed a little bit, and it was actually pretty successful because what was happening was they were letting Oklahoma shoot 17-footers all night, and they just happened to knock them down, though.
Absolutely. Is this a game where Iowa State, you just expect them to go out and shoot threes again, and they got to make that a certain amount, double digits at least?
That's their game. And they're going to win. Yeah. That's what they're going to have to do. They're not going to win many games making less than 10 three-pointers. That's horrible.
We talked about last week. What did they make? 11, 13, 14, 16.
And they still lost.
So, absolutely. They can make three-pointers, but they've also got to rebound. I think they lost the rebounding margin to Oklahoma State last time they played, and they've got to get back on defense. That's been their downfall this season. They get a lead in the second half, and they let it the other team will just chip away, let it slip away. In the late parts of the game on the road, they just haven't been able to finish it off. It hasn't been the same way at home, obviously, Kansas being the exception to that. Unbelievable home record for Iowa State this season. But, let's go down the table like we always do, guys. Who's going to win this? Who's going to come out on top in this game, and why?
I was wrong last time I chose Iowa State over Oklahoma, but I think
we haven't kept track of our record.
I know.
I think it's pretty bad.
I'm probably just over 500. I'd like to think.
I think you were the only one that called Oklahoma, weren't you?
No, I'd love to take credit for that, but no.
I wish I could.
Okay.
No.
You all went Iowa State?
I almost called for a blowout for Iowa State.
Take record. But I think if anything, the basketball gods owe Iowa State. I saw a tweet today that said that, so I don't mean to steal it from you, Seth Davis, but it's the truth. You think about it, but Iowa State, I think if they play defense, if they come out with their energy.
The cards seem to be in their favor right now for Iowa State.
Yeah. They're going to have to rebound. They're going to have to play defense. I don't know how they're going to stop Oklahoma State offensively or on defense, so they're going to have to play well.
Looking back to that Kansas State game at Hilton, Iowa State was favored over Kansas State, right, in that one game? I believe so. Yeah, I think they were favored in that game.
By a couple points.
By a couple points. So I think it's going to be similar. I think it's going to be a couple points.
Favored by one.
Favored by one. Yeah. Okay.
Like I said earlier, I think it's more likely that Iowa State loses against West Virginia than they lose tomorrow. I think they'll win tomorrow, which maybe secures them. But, the key, obviously, is they got to make the threes. But like we said, that doesn't always matter. So they have to be able to close out game. They have to play defense on top. They can't put their hand up as they're sinking the three-pointer.
Absolutely. Iowa State's last win at home was that Texas Tech game where they won by 20. So, Cody, what do you think? Is this going to be 10-point game, 5-point game? Is it a blowout win for Iowa State?
Do they go bananas from three? I really can't imagine them, Oklahoma State, losing track of Iowa State. They've got just that much talent. I do think Iowa State's going to have so much energy to ride off between the crowd, senior night, and playing for their tournament lives, I really can't imagine them coming out flat. So I would say it's gonna win, in a close game.
Last year was Christofferson with the
Bankton, was it the Bankton 3
and
or
they really,
three?
and they played horrible pretty much that entire game.
So maybe something happens like that again.
You never know.
Also, you could see Booker starting. That's a quick note.
We saw what happened in the women's game yesterday on senior night. So that was, anything can happen on a senior night. I think that just adds to the whole aspect of it. This is a big game. There's no doubt about it. A lot on the line for this team. We've mentioned that.
Sounds like every show.
Every show. It seems like we talk about that every show.
The one thing that's for sure is that next time this team comes to Hilton after tomorrow, it's going to look a lot different.
Absolutely. Quickly, before I forget about it, Fred Hoiberg and some of the players actually on Monday previewed this game. Talk about the challenges that Oklahoma State's going to present to Iowa State coming up on Wednesday.
Been kicked pretty hard this year on several different occasions, and I just thought that was the first time we didn't come out with enough energy. I thought the other games we've responded very well and come out and played hard, but I thought the Oklahoma game we didn't have it. Didn't have it early, didn't have it in the middle, didn't have it late. We just didn't play a very good game. We got to get back. Got to get back to who we are. We got a very important couple days here of practice. We really got to be locked in. Understand the game plan. Oklahoma State does a lot of very unique things defensively. They run a couple different presses at you and drop back into a matchup type zone, and we just need to have great movement and have great spacing. And if we do that, I think we'll be able to get really good looks on the offensive end of the floor. And with all that being said, we got to find a way to string together stops. We obviously have not done that. And we got to find a way. If you don't string together stops, you saw our offense was as potent, was as good as any team has ever played against a Bill Self team, and you just can't get enough stops to win that game. So yeah, it's going to take a great effort offensively, but defensively we've got to take a big step in the right direction.
We had a little talk after the game. Everybody said a little something. After we just lost this last game, but we'll see moving forward. I think we know how to bounce back in tough situations when our backs are against the wall. So I think it's something that's in the back of my mind to doing again. But I don't know when the time comes. Eventually, if it comes before this game on Wednesday, then it comes. But if not, I think we'll find a way to win, or just to play our game and then try to find a way to win.
I think Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are both playing as well as anybody. You take that last 8-minute stretch away from Oklahoma when they played Texas. They had a 22-point lead and just put on a clinic for 32 minutes. And obviously didn't finish that game well. So they've been rolling. They've beaten Kansas recently. Oklahoma State had a great chance to beat Kansas, and they win that. Yeah, they are the hottest team in our league right now. What they've done on the road, to handle West Virginia the way they did, to go out and, knock off some of the teams that they've beaten recently. It's a dangerous, very dangerous team that I think will go a long way in a tournament because of their style and the way they play. It's a pressure style. Marcus Smart, again, I think is as good as there is in the country right now as far as impacting and winning. Markel Brown, I think, is a very underrated player. Forte off the bench as a shooter. The two bigs that do a great job with the role, and Nash, who's played great against us in the past. So it's an excellent basketball team, and we're certainly going to have to come in with the right mentality if we want to win this one on Wednesday.
I don't think we've done a very good job of that all season, closing out games. Even when we have big leads, we still kind of struggle to close out games. I think we just got to figure out a way. I don't really know if it's something you can put into words or something that's just we got to do. It's going to take everybody. It's just a mindset. When the game's closing down and we got to get stops, it's just something that we got to do.
Well, if we go take care of business, things will take care of themselves, and that's the mentality that I think our guys have right now, and it's just the mentality of our coaching staff that if we get these guys right, we'll have a very good chance of having success down the stretch, and that's what we have to do. It is what it is. We are where we are. You look back at what could have been. With having a chance to be 13-3 in the league, but we're not. We're 9-7 with 2 opportunities in front of us. Plus the Big 12 tournament. So we're going to take it one at a time, like we've tried to approach it with our guys all year, and hopefully play great.
There you go, guys. There's Fred and some of the players talking about the big matchup tomorrow against Oklahoma State. We kind of talked about this before that video, but quickly, who do you guys got, Cody? Who's the winner tomorrow, and what's the score?
I'm going to go Iowa State 82-80 over Oklahoma State. Alex.
Iowa State 83-78, and Babb breaks their team record for three-pointers in the season.
All right, I'll take Iowa State 89-86, and I think it'll be Tyrus McGee.
I think Iowa State breaks the 90 mark. I think they go 90-85. I think this is a very high-scoring game. Regulation.
Oh,
regulation. I think Iowa State. We said it. Who's gonna set the record? They need 6 to tie, 7 to break it.
Nope. 5 to tie, 6 to break.
5 to tie, 6 to break it. Who hits it? Tyrus McGee?
I just said Tyrus.
I think Babb. Either
Babb.
get 8.
Boo-boo.
Boo-boo.
His one shot of the year.
Oh, man. All right, guys.
Macbeth.
Percy? You didn't guess yet.
I said McGee.
I said McGee. All right, I like it.
All right.
Smart man.
So we're all going Iowa State tomorrow? All right.
We're not homers. We're not homers.
6 o'clock tomorrow at Hilton Coliseum. Iowa State hosts number 13 Oklahoma State. Coming up next, Dylan Montz and Stephen Konigsfeld from the Iowa State Daily coming and talking Iowa State women's basketball. Stay tuned. You're watching Cyclone InCYders.
For the Iowa State women's basketball team, much of this season's success has been seen on the court. What you don't see is the work put in by the all-male practice team. The practice team consists of about 15 Iowa State students that match up physically, mentally, and competitively with the women. As part of the women's team, each practice player is NCAA certified and on the same eligibility list as any other Division I athlete. Iowa State head coach Bill Finley said the guys add a lot to the team.
It's not just, hey, I'm just going to show up today and play. There's stuff they have to do and make a commitment to do it that a lot of people wouldn't do. So we're lucky to have them. They're great guys, and without question, probably one of the best things we did here when we got here, and we're going to keep doing as long as the rules allow it.
Practice team player Josh Lenz says playing against the women's team is a lot more competitive than people would think.
We don't back down at all, or at least I don't. I mean, they're a lot more physical, a lot stronger than most people would think, and I mean, you really don't even realize it when you're playing.
Going into practice, the men learn the role of a player from the team's next opponent. Forwards Hallie Christofferson and Chelsea Poppins enjoy competing against the guys because it gives them a better sense of the competition ahead.
They always go hard, and they kind of have a different style of play than what girls do, and they're quicker, which helps when we get into the games. In a way, they're tougher than what playing against girls would be. So I mean, it's very beneficial just to play against people that can block your shot every time.
All the practice team players get out of being on the team is a pair of shoes and some practice gear, but it's the experience that makes it worthwhile.
Feels good, going into a practice knowing you're the star of the other team and whatnot, and they're counting on you. So it's a big responsibility, but it's definitely it's an experience. It's rewarding too as well.
There's no way we would have ever had the success we've had here without those guys. It would not have been possible.
With the Big 12 tournament approaching, the task of helping the team prepare is even greater for the practice squad. For ISU TV, I'm Mitch Gerber with Matt Van Winkle.
Senior day for Lizzie Stranahan could not have been scripted any better than posting a career high for her all-around score with a 38.9 and defeating the number 12th ranked Minnesota Gophers. In that career high all-around score, Lizzie set a career high in the vault and uneven bars and tied her career best on the floor. In her career as a Cyclone, Lizzie was happy from going from one event in a meet to an all-around gymnast.
And then I'm just really proud of stepping up, coming from doing one event to becoming an all-arounder by my senior year. I'm really proud of that.
During her 4-year gymnastics career, Lizzie was thankful for what her coaches had done and for her teammates.
My team, I've been extremely lucky. We're like a family here. They take care of me. We take care of each other. My coaches, I wanted to get better, and they helped me get better and pulled in the end of that deal.
Coach Jay Ronayne believes Lizzie Stranahan's passion, hard work, and love for the sport is something that makes her a special person.
She reminds me why we do what we do. She reminds me that just to love this sport or any sport and to put your entire self into it wholly, it's very satisfying to be able to reap the rewards afterward. She's something special. That's very satisfying for me.
With the season coming closer to an end, Lizzie Stranahan has just one thing to say to everyone who has supported her throughout her career as a Cyclone gymnast.
Just thank you to everyone. Just thank you to everyone who's ever come out, everyone who's ever supported. We're extremely grateful to have the fans we do, and I'm extremely grateful to be a Cyclone in the journey I had.
With ISU TV Sports, I'm Alan Fidelki.
And there's Alan Fidelki and Mitch Gerber with a couple great packages on ISU TV. And now we're going to switch things up to women's basketball talk, and we're bringing in, once again, It's been a week since we brought you guys on. We had a big game to talk about for the men last week, obviously, big one on Monday. But Dylan Mont, Stephen Coningswald from the Iowa State Daily. Guys, we have a lot to talk about today. Actually,
Yes, we do.
Almost as big, or maybe not as quite as large scale, but almost as an exciting game last night for senior night for the Iowa State women's basketball team as maybe the last Monday for the men's against Kansas. What a game, guys! Wow. I mean, this morning when I woke up, I was still trying to recollect my thoughts from that game. A 73-70 win against Oklahoma State. Guys, just want to get your quick thoughts. What an amazing game. I mean, I haven't seen anything like it at Hilton. It was so loud.
Yeah, as much energy as there's been all year in the building. Just unbelievable. The fans.
Maybe ever for a women's game.
Yeah, maybe ever. Just the fans just rallied around that team the whole night, even when they were down earlier in the game. It just seemed to lift them up the whole time. Just an amazing game.
To me, it really wasn't a surprise that it got that loud in there, based on the fact that it was senior night. Anna Prince, Chelsea Poppins, Amanda Zimmerman, those three girls really have been a staple to this team in this program for the last 4 years, have done so much. I mean, they've been to the NCAA tournament all the years they've been a part of the program. And both of them scored over 1,000 points in their career. I mean, not Amanda Zimmerman, but Chelsea Poppins and Anna Prince. Just great team players, and they're going to be missed.
You have to look at going into halftime. You have to think that maybe those seniors and Fenley stepped up and said something about it, because I leaned over to Dylan at halftime.
Down 8 at halftime.
Yeah, they were down 8 at halftime, and I leaned over to Dylan and we were talking about it. Kind of, what do you think's going to happen when they come back out here? And one of two things could have happened. They were going to come out and keep playing kind of that slow, sluggish pace and kind of just going point for point with West Virginia, or they're going to come out and really get after it. And I think it was, 2 minutes into the second half, the Cyclones had the ball for maybe 20 seconds. And so they were playing that sluggish, and then a couple of threes and some exciting things happened. Fans got into it finally, and the game really just took a turn for the better for the Cyclones.
3 technical fouls called in that game, 2 on the Iowa State bench. I don't think there's ever been a father-son combination of technical fouls called in the game, but it happened last night. Billy Fenley and Bill Fenley. Still not sure why Bill got called for a technical. Billy, I saw threw his jacket down. Yeah. Bill, I'm not sure why they called a technical on him. I don't know. It was just a weird night. Another technical foul called on the Oklahoma State bench. That ended up being pretty big, actually, because Iowa State was able to get to the free throw line, shoot 2, and then go down the court and hit a three-pointer, and that was all within the span of, 5-6 seconds, I think?
It was absolute chaos for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and even the whole second half. Fenley picks up his technical after Moody takes an offensive foul or something, gets his technical, and then 2 minutes or so later,
I think that
Oklahoma State coach picks up his technical.
And I think that energy even fed the team even more. The crowd got into it, got louder and louder. I just think that even spurred them a little bit further.
It resulted in an ejection and a technical foul called on somebody sitting courtside at Hilton Coliseum.
Yep.
That was a first for me. I'd never seen that at Hilton Coliseum. But, man, that place was loud. And, 73-70. They trailed by 8 at halftime, as we said. Trailed by, 13 in the second half.
Yep.
Iowa State just comes back with some huge three-pointers. Hallie Christopherson hit a couple down the stretch.
Yes.
Bryn Williamson hits back-to-back threes to pull it within single digits. And then Anna Prince hits the icebreaker, really. I think they got the 3-point lead at that point. That's what you expect from your seniors. In that situation, and Bill Fenley said it best after the game, they're not going to remember the score. They're not going to remember how many points they had. They're going to remember what happened in that game, how it ended, and just the excitement in the building that night.
I just remember thinking to myself, Oklahoma State comes out of halftime on a 5-0 run, and it's 43-30, I believe. I said, if they get up to 15, I don't know if they can come back from it. But just the resiliency they showed and the leadership from the seniors, you can throw in Christopherson there. I don't know. It was just made for a special night.
I was looking back at my notes, and I remember writing it down. Williamson hit a 3, and I was like, all right, if they can hit a couple more threes, maybe they can get back into this game. Yes. Williamson hit that 3. They got a turnover on the other end. Moody kicked it back out. Williamson with another 3. It was a 10-point lead, and it just went down from there.
And that's when they can be dangerous, is when they're hitting threes like that in pairs. It's kind of like in bowling when you hit a couple strikes and your score just jumps up. It's similar to that, where for this team, if they're hitting shots together, they seem to just string them along. And once they get that lead, they seem to be safe. Sometimes they let it slip, like it's against Kansas. They had a pretty significant lead. Kansas made a little bit of a run, but they had a significant enough lead where they were safe. In this game, it was much different in a sense where they had to do the work. They had to come all the way back, grabbed a little bit of a lead, almost let it slip away when Hallie Christopherson let the ball bounce off her foot. But you're just like right there. Hits a monster 3 for Iowa State. Just the crowd goes wild, and she was a big reason. And what did she finish with? 21 points. She's not a senior. I mean, she's over 1,000 points already.
And she's only a junior, right?
I mean, you can make the argument that she could be, one of the greatest shooters of all time.
And it's really going to change next year with the lineup, the way they're losing Poppins and Prince, two of their biggest players. You only have Byer, who's a freshman this year, has been kind of injury prone a little bit, so they're going to have to go with a different kind of lineup.
Well, another reason, guys, this was a huge win is that Iowa State secures the number 2 seed in the Big 12. And that's big for a lot of reasons. I mean, it's big in the sense that, Finley has talked about this all season long, and that it's really Baylor and everybody else, and you're fighting for that 2 spot. Obviously, you're not playing for second place in the conference, but let's be honest, they pretty much were. Baylor had it locked up, a week and a half ago.
Right.
So Iowa State was playing for the 2 seed, and they got it last night with that big win. The reason it's big to me, and you guys can argue with me against this, but they're not going to have to face, if they get to that point, they won't have to face Baylor to the championship game. They get a first-round bye. They'll play the winner of TCU and Kansas on Thursday. So, I mean, how big is that? I mean, they won't have to face potentially the best team in the country till the championship if it comes down to that.
Well, it's huge. They've struggled the last couple of years in the Big 12 tournament, getting over that hump of the first game.
First round last year.
Yeah, just kind of struggled there getting going. But you look at them finishing second with the other good teams in the Big 12 with Texas Tech and Oklahoma. Just a couple games ago, they could have finished as high as second, which they did, or they could have finished as low as 7th.
Yeah.
So I think going in these last couple games with that right mindset, throw out the TCU game there, but I think it obviously is a huge game.
I wrote a blog about this earlier today on CycloneFanatic.com about how this could be, this game to me means 2 things. I mean, one, that Iowa State is just playing, they can be at their worst, like we saw against TCU. I mean, that was arguably their worst game.
Absolutely.
And then you come right back and you beat a good Oklahoma State team. You're down 8 at half. You're down 13 in the second half, and you come back and win an emotional game. I mean, if the crowd can rally behind this team, they could do something special.
Absolutely.
I mean, they really legit could. I think, I'm not going to say they're going to beat Baylor, but if they play like they did in the second part of that second half with that energy, the way they shot the ball from 3, the way they were distributing it down low, they're going to be hard to stop.
Right, I couldn't agree with you more, Matt. They just getting the ball out and being able to shoot that 3 ball. I think that's one of the key things they'll have to do, especially with and getting Poppins the ball, feeding her and Prince both down low. That was huge for them. When the 3 wasn't working. I think they went 0 for 8. And 3 for 10 at halftime from behind the arc, but they made some 4 3-point plays and getting the 3 points the old-fashioned way. Maybe finding some ways to get some points some different ways. I think that's also key for them.
So let's look a little bit ahead to this Big 12 tournament. We know who's going to be where. As I said, Iowa State gets that 2 seed. They'll play Thursday at 6 p.m. Between the winner of TCU and Kansas. And that's interesting in itself because Iowa State split with both those teams this year. So, I mean, regardless who they play, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think if Iowa State had to play TCU again, I'm sure they'd win. I mean, that just seemed like a fluke game, playing at TCU. They're going to be playing in Dallas. I mean, that's a little bit of a joke to me that they're down in the first place. I could go on a rant about that. But, I mean, you're in a good spot right now, I think, if you're Iowa State. Playing either the 7 or 10 seed, you get that first-round bye. I mean, they're obviously a lock for the NCAA tournament at this point, but they've got a chance to make a little bit of a run, as I was saying.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're a good matchup with Kansas or TCU in the way they can take care of them. And I think they remember that game at Kansas where they were up 18 at the one point and then lost it.
Yeah, but they got to be careful. I mean, as I said, this team is. We can see them when they don't shoot the ball well, when they shoot cold. Anybody can beat them, as we saw against TCU. So, I mean, what's it going to take? Could this team potentially win a Big 12 championship this year? Could it happen?
I think it's absolutely possible. The way they played against Kansas in Lawrence, taking that game into overtime for the 4th time in 5 matchups down there, that game went into overtime. TCU, you have a fluke game at TCU, and then you beat them at home. So I think you'd rather play TCU in this situation. And then looking into maybe if you went against TCU or Kansas, whatever that game is, You would most likely, looking at the way that's projected, you'd play West Virginia.
Yeah.
You beat West Virginia. You lost to them at home, but you beat them on the road, so it's kind of a weird swap there. And then most likely get to Baylor.
Yeah, I think it was one of the two of you said yesterday that, you know, the coaching staff is taking this now as a new season approach. Now that the Big 12 portion, the regular season is done, you set that aside. Nothing before that matters at all. I mean, everybody's got a clean slate. Everybody's 0-0. I mean, the seeding-wise, I mean, people are going to have higher or lower seeds. But, I mean, if you're Iowa State, you got to put everything behind you. Obviously, it's an emotional win, you know, last night. But you got to move past that. Obviously, you can be excited for it now. But, obviously you want to build on that shooting performance. You want to keep that going. But it's a completely new season right now.
Yeah, you want to keep that, like you said, with the same energy and enthusiasm, but you don't want to be too commonplace with where you are. You don't want to get too high on finishing second in the Big 12. You got to remember, you got to play, obviously, each game to advance.
Is it, from what I see right now, I think Iowa State is for sure going to be either a 4 or a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. I think depending on what happens in the Big 12 tournament, I think that they could potentially move up higher than that, but it's not looking likely. I think it's either a 4 or 5, and I think that puts them in a good spot.
Yeah, the way I see it right now, I think the latest projections have them a 6 seed against Duquesne, and playing there. With this Oklahoma State win, that's a huge win at home. Final regular season game of the year. Yeah. You get at least 1 win in the Big 12 tournament, most likely will. You get 2 wins, I think you're definitely a 4 or 5 seed. You're very highly projected, and then it's March Madness either way you look at it, so it could go either way.
Well, that's just the thing is I think that new season approach is good in the sense that, you know, especially in the Big 12 this season, we've seen so many people, so many teams that are upsetting other teams. I mean, I remember, was it North Dakota and UConn last night? What a game that was. I mean, those are 2 ranked teams, but that game goes to triple overtime. I mean, it's games like that we've seen this year, though. I mean, with the exception of Baylor. I mean, they only have 1 loss all season long, so it's obviously been Baylor and everybody else. But, I mean, you look at Iowa State's record overall this year, what are they?
29.
They're
21-7.
21-7,
12-6. I mean, you take away 2 of those losses against Baylor, 4 losses in conference. That's not too bad.
It's not too bad, and only a couple of them were actually bad. The other ones, they were. It was either in overtime. The only one I would say would be really bad, where they just didn't show up, would be TCU or possibly Oklahoma State. But you know, those 4 losses in conference, take out Baylor, are pretty respectable, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's go back to these seniors just for a moment, because I think it's important to just hit on it one more time. How important they really are, and how important they are going to be down this final stretch. I mean, as I said, they've been there. They've been to the NCAA tournament 3 times. They've got what it takes to make a run. And I forgot to get to the thing. I've been doing this a lot today. But, I mean, these seniors really reflected after the game yesterday. Coach Finley talked about what these seniors meant and just a little bit about what happened against OSU last night.
I would sum it up by saying Hilton magic. That was a crazy game. I don't know. I haven't heard Hilton that loud in a while. A huge thank you to the fans, because that was an amazing game, and they're a huge reason why we get wins like that, because they're just absolutely dedicated and amazing.
I mean, what perfect way to end it, just with that close of a game with an amazing crowd. I mean, and we come out on top. I mean, it was great. It was something special.
The emotion of trying to play for second, senior night, last game of the season, coming off a loss, it was a game that kind of went back and forth, and I thought the last 12 minutes of the game, both teams played as hard as they could play. The fans were amazing. But to be down, the first 4 minutes of the second half, we're down 13, and really played poorly for 4 minutes, and they didn't knock us out. And we got lucky there, and then we really played well the last about 13 and a half minutes. We were really good.
That's kind of what I imagine winning state in high school feels like. I never really got that, but I mean, it was just awesome. We're all jumping around, jumping onto each other. I mean, it was just so much fun to play that kind of a game with that much pressure on you and come out on top. I mean, I don't know, especially on senior night. I mean, like I said, what better way to end it?
I mean, I think it's a huge accomplishment for this team, and just from the beginning of the season where we were picked to finish and where we ended up finishing, I think makes a huge statement.
Those are the memories they're going to have. They're going to remember that they won a big game and an emotional game and a great game and a game that they had to make a great effort. So it means a lot. It certainly means a lot to all of us, but certainly those three kids.
This is one of the games I think that Coach talks about that we will always remember. We won't remember the score. We won't remember probably really what happened, just that it was an intense fought game and that we did it together and we kept each other positive and into the game, and those are the memories that you make and keep with you.
You know, the bottom line is our team is playing at a high level, and they deserve the chance. They've earned over 18 games. If you're the number 2 seed, damn, man, you did something in this league. So that's pretty good. But tonight is about 3 seniors that gave a lot to our school, and about a team that I think really played at a very high level for a long time.
And there's just a recap of just the whole night that was yesterday.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, senior night, really just a magical night.
Mm-hmm.
Anna Prince said it best, Hilton magic. That's what it was last night. And they're gonna need to carry that. I mean, they're gonna need to keep hang on to some of the energy that was in that building last night. Mm-hmm. Bring that down to Dallas. Bring that to the NCAA tournament, because I think they're gonna need it, guys.
Yeah, I think so. I think they will. I think they will use that as kind of a carrier. And with the seniors they have and the senior leadership they showed, I think they will carry that. Maybe a couple games. Could go to the Big 12 championship.
Kind of unique situation as well. Some of the players are from Texas in that Dallas-Fort Worth area, so you get some of those families bringing their friends. You kind of get a little bit of Hilton magic on the road, maybe.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime Iowa State goes down south, they usually seem to bring a few fans.
Absolutely.
But I think I made an error earlier. That first round, the 7 versus 10 game, is Friday. Iowa State will play the winner of that TCU-Kansas game Saturday. That's the March 9th at 6 p.m. So, guys, quickly before we get out of here, got a couple minutes. Who's going to win that game? Is it going to be Iowa State, or is it going to be a TCU or a Kansas?
I like Iowa State in that game. I think they're playing with a lot of confidence right now. And seniors they're realizing that their time is nearing an end. So I think they will come down there with confidence.
I think it's Iowa State, Kansas in a third game of the season. Neutral site, but I think Iowa State takes it in Dallas.
I think you're right, guys. Iowa State wins this one. That next round is going to be interesting, though. The 3 versus 6 game, that could be something fun. So we're going to keep an eye out for that. Guys, thanks again for coming on. Appreciate
you bet.
it.
Thanks, man.
I want to thank Alex, Cody, and Dean for coming on in the first segment. Join us again next Monday. We're going to have a lot to talk about. Obviously, men's tournament talk, and obviously the NCAA tournament for the women's going to be coming up next week as well. Thanks again. We'll see you again next Monday. Thanks for watching Cyclone InCYders.